Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me again, Musarat, and everybody at Ikra Library. I just wanted to also thank you for, having this platform. You're doing amazing work. I know just between the two of us, there's a lot of back and forth in terms of planning. So I can only imagine how you're doing it with so many. And it's, it's really like it's a place that I come to for my inspiration too. So thank you for doing this. Um, yeah, I think like you said, it's a tough topic. I think in terms of, we all find that there are moments where our mind kind of goes to the future or goes to the past. So it was a topic where I was, I don't say I was hesitant, but it was I think I found it a bit challenging. But funnily enough, in the last 5, 6 days, I find that the right resources kind of came to me, and the last 5, 6 days, I've kind of felt like, okay, I love this moment. So I don't know how that happens, but uh, yeah, obviously that's the universe, right? Actually, you set out an intention and you believe that it's going to show up, and it shows up. So thank you for that. Um, I think this topic is obviously very relevant at any point. We all want to live in the now. We don't want the now moment to escape us. But I think right now, like more so like in the middle of the in between of this pandemic, because I think there was a period of I'd say 2020, 2021, where we grieved the lives we used to lead. Oh, we used to have this, we used to do that, we used to meet our friends, we used to go to weddings. And now it's kind of going back into reopening of everything, and there's almost an anxiety to, oh, I don't know if we want to go back to that, if we want to go back to the big gatherings or the many events. So there we are in that kind of in between stage, which is very interesting, between grieving the past and now the anxiety of the future. So it's a very relevant topic. um I think a premise that I want to begin with, which is what I heard from Abraham Hicks, is we're all going to want more. It's human nature. It's expansion. It's really the beauty of dreams, right? You have a dream, and then you get to that goal, and the next dream appears, right? That's just how we work. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we are like, oh, we should be content, and we should, but I think that's beautiful. It's the becoming. That's what we're doing, right? Like it's basically, whether it's, okay, I want to study this, I want to graduate. Once you graduate, okay, I want to get a job. Okay, once you get a job, you're like, okay, I want to get married. I want to get married. Okay, now I want to have a kid. Now I want a house. Like it's beautiful. It's human expansion. But if we're always going to say, I'll only be happy when I get there, and we're always going to want more, then are we ever going to be happy? I think that was like a point that really hit me, that if we're always going to want more, and I'll only be happy once it happens, then we're always going to be unhappy, because we're always waiting for the next moment. So I found that very, very interesting. And also, like, the part of, if you want to be happy now, because today is the future we dreamt about yesterday, right? So if we're always going to say, I'm going to be happy then, like, oh, I want to be happy in 5 years, I want to be happy in 1 year. No, like, you have to practice that now. Like, be happy now, so you get into the habit of being happy. And literally, our thoughts control if we're unhappy or happy, right? So, like, if you actually notice, when you're unhappy, you're usually thinking something, and look at that thought. So you can choose to change that thought. It's like, I know it sounds kind of overly simple, but it is kind of that simple. Like, if you kind of see yourself drifting into the future or drifting into the past, it's about now, like, noticing that voice and saying, okay, right now, like, is everything okay right now? What can I do to bring myself into the present moment? It can be as simple as really like a cup of tea. Like, I know for me, like, a cup of tea is it brings me back, you know? So it's not, oh, I'll only be happy like when something big happens. We can do little things that make us really happy and to bring us back to that moment. So that was something I wanted to kind of bring about. And I think it's also about getting into the energy of I'm always going to want more and it's going to be fun. I'm always going to want more, and clarifying what I want is fun. Because we're always clarifying, right? Sometimes they'll say, be careful what you wish for. Sometimes you're like, oh, I want this thing. And then when you get there, you're like, well, actually, I want this, but this. Like, I'm not like, there's specifications, and you become more specific about what you want as you go. And that's fun. That's like you're constantly evolving. You're like, well, actually, I want a big house. No, wait, I want a big house with a pool. Oh, wait, I want a big house with a pool and a garden, right? So it's fun. It's kind of watching what you want come into manifestation. I also kind of think that that whole becoming and enjoying the becoming, right? Like if you think about it, we all have the same beginning and we all have the same end. The beauty is in the becoming. The beauty is in the journey. So really enjoying the process of getting to wherever you're getting to, because you're always in that process, to really recognize you're always in that process. Yeah, so that was one point. And then I was listening to a podcast the other day too, and it was they mentioned a quote which said, being aware of the present moment means you never believe the illusion that the future is going to be better than what is going on right now. So I'll repeat that quote because I found it quite powerful. Being aware of the present moment means you never believe the illusion that the future is going to be better than what is going on right now. There is no guarantee that tomorrow will be better. But often we're like, gosh, we get to there. If only, like, I just need to get to that exam date. I just need to pass that exam. I just need to get to that wedding. I just need to, there's always, then I'll be happy. But there's no guarantee that that is going to be greater than right now. And today was the day, you thought about before. And I think one point that really stuck with me was we're exchanging this moment for a future moment. We're here, we're right now, it's guaranteed. And we're taking away this very moment for like the future. So it's like, if you have kids, or it's like you have them right now, and it's like, oh, like sometimes you'll just be like, oh, like let them just grow up, and then I'll be okay. But like you don't know if that they will actually be okay, like, or like maybe, and then when you're at that moment, you might look back and be like, oh, like it was so nice when they were small, or whatever it might be. Like when I was younger, like let's say in my university, or once I get my job, a lot of people say, oh, like, oh, once you get to 30, you're kind of set. But you look back, and even like you'll say it to younger people, be like, oh, enjoy school, it's the best time of your life. When you were in school, you were like, oh my God, I just want to graduate, like I just want to get out of here. And it's like, so if you're exchanging this moment for that future moment, and then when you get to that future moment, you look back and you say, oh, that was so good, but I wasn't present in that moment, then you kind of know that, then it's kind of that when you're like, oh, did I rob myself of that moment? So I think like these two kind of points, they kind of really stuck out for me, that I think the exchange of the moment really kind of really stuck with me. Was you're present in this moment, so make the most of it. I think something I actually found in a book that I was reading, and it said it talks about writing your story, in terms of manifesting. Right. So one of the exercises that they asked us, that the book tells you to do, is go into a future moment and write about write about today like it's in the past, you know, like, and get into the flow first, like, you know, whether it's going for a walk or listening to some music or whatever it might be to kind of get you in that flow, and start writing about, you know, like your, like for me, what I did was I was kind of, you know, I'm in Canada for a limited period of time, and there's always a bit of anxiety over, am I going to see everybody I want to see? Am I going to be able to do everything I want to do? So I kind of did it at the end of summer, like I was at the end of my summer, and use very like emotive language, which is, you know, so like, so I kind of wrote down, oh, like my summer was so magical. I loved it. You know, there was the green grass, the green tree. So I come from Dubai. So so green grass and green trees is a big deal. It's you know, but really like I wrote about every single detail, like who I saw, like how good it was, how easy it was, how fun it was, how present I was. And you talk about the small things, you know, like I sat in the garden and I put my feet on the ground. And I think really getting into that space, when that like really brought me into the moment, because now I'm like, oh, I'm living this moment. And these are the things I'm going to recognize. So I'm a lot more aware when I wake up. I'm like, oh, okay, I see my mom. I see, you know, like whoever I see. It's okay. Like I'm so there. Like because this is what I'm going to write, you know, in like whatever. And this is my story. This is our lives. I think that was just so like so powerful. Like this is what you're gonna look back on. And you don't want to be writing a story where I was like, I was never present. I was, you know, thinking about my past, or I was thinking about my future, but the present moment escaped me. And we don't need to wait for big things to happen to be present. The small things are the big things, right? Like I think I spoke about that in my first video, the pursuit of moments. It's, you know, especially this year where a lot of the normal things were taken away from us. A lot was brought, like, you know, families became a lot closer. You know, like small things became big things, whether it's playing Monopoly with your family, or just spending so much time with them, or whatever it may be. Like I think we were all like, oh, the pandemic, but now we look back and we were like, oh, there was actually so much good in the pandemic, you know, like there, like as in it brought a lot of things, it brought a lot of closeness, or I think even friendships, you know, they, people kind of chose who they hung out with a bit more. um there was a lot of, I think, clarity that came out of it. So yeah, everything's not necessarily good or bad. It doesn't need to be judged. It just needs to be lived. Like live it. Because it's also that voice in our heads that's always judging, that's always like talking, right? It's like, oh, like even if you go outside, it might, if you don't kind of watch it, it'll be like, oh, I wonder how long this weather will last. It's so green. This, like, you don't need that voice. But obviously that voice, like that's all of our minds. And I think taking a step back and just watching that voice and also knowing that that's not you, right? Like, so taking a step back, watching that voice, that brings you into the present moment, because you're like, oh, I'm not that voice. I'm not that person who needs to like comment on every single thing or find a problem in every single thing. Like I'm me. And when you get into that observer mode, then that voice, like it can talk, but it, that energy, that life energy, like it can pass through you, right? It's not being blocked by like, oh, yesterday was so much better, oh, tomorrow will be so much better, oh, and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. Like you're just there, you realize you're not that that voice. Yeah, so I really encourage everybody to do that practice. Where, you know, whether even if it's like, pretend it's the end of your day and be like, oh, today I woke up and I, you know, I had my cup of tea and I went outside and it was just so magical. Like it's literally like really talking like so emotively. It changes your day. It really does. It's something so simple but so powerful. Yeah. So I think I actually wanted to keep it pretty short. I just wanted to end off with a story that I read. So it's it goes like this. The businessman was horrified to find the fisherman lying beside his boat smoking a pipe. Why aren't you fishing? He said. Because I've caught enough fish, he replied. Why don't you catch some more? And he asked, what would I do with them? Earn more money. Then you could have a motorboat and go into deeper waters and catch more fish. That would bring you money to buy nylon nets. So more fish, more money. Soon you would have enough to buy 2 boats, even a fleet of boats. Then you could be rich like me. Yes. And what would I do then? Asked the fisherman confusingly. Then you could sit back and enjoy life. And he says, what do you think I'm doing right now? So I think that just really brings into context that often we have it all. We have everything. We really do. But we're like, I don't know, we're racing to get somewhere. But we have it. We have it. We have it right now. Yeah. So that's it. So thank you so much. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Saara. So just a quick one. So if obviously it's a skill, it's a practice, right? Living in the now. It's not something that will just happen, especially with in our minds, we've got so many thoughts going around, and a lot of times we just don't even realize we've got all these thoughts happening, and the time just flies off, and next thing that day is gone. So how do you kind of is there any practice that you could do to bring yourself back in? Obviously you might have to do several times a day to kind of remind you to bring yourself back in the now. Is there something you recommend to do as a practice?
Well, I think for me, like I try in the morning to do a little meditation, and it's just literally a 5-minute meditation I do to kind of bring me into the present. What I also do is kind of set my intention for the day. That that kind of brings me back into the day. And again, like I said, the practice which I would do is talking like it's the past tense. Also, I think a big thing is that when you find yourself getting triggered, and I think this would be more regarding the past, like there are certain things that trigger us. We go back into our stories, right? Like, oh, like, I don't know, whatever it may be, like somebody does one thing, like they don't compliment my food, which is pretty common, but it can go into the story of, oh, nobody appreciates me, nobody loves me. You can get into that story. So there's another practice, and it's to get out of the mind and into the body. And I can actually share this with you, and you can share with everybody, but a journal prompt to create a new like neural pathway, a new reaction would be, writing down, like, today I am witnessing my thoughts. Like when I'm triggered, instead of choosing to go into my story, I'm going to tune into how I feel in my heart, in my body, and in my brain. Like, so we basically do how do I feel in my heart? How do I feel in my body? Like, where does it hurt me? So you kind of get out of the mind and into the body. And then today I'm choosing to be present. That's your affirmation. Change in this area will allow me to feel. You say freedom, like for me it was freedom. To be present means to be free for me. And today I'm practicing when I'm triggered, I will take 3 breaths, for example. So I think when a moment hits you, you're like, oh, future, past, just bring yourself into that moment. Be like, yeah, how am I feeling in my heart? How fast is my mind going? Just kind of, yeah, bringing yourself into your body.
Being aware of what's happening as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's what I would say. And I think at the end of the day, also saying gratitude also brings you into the moment, right? So morning.
It does, because
And
obviously, yeah, as soon as you have the gratitude, you appreciate the moment the way you're saying, because we don't know in 5 years time or 2 years time what's going to happen, right? So you're going to be present and be grateful for what you have at the moment, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Has anybody got any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, please, if anybody's got any questions, or you can use the chat to ask any questions to Sister Saara. No one's got any questions. Is there anything, Sarah, that you want to end to help us just into the practice as well? It is a skill that will take time. Anything that you recommend for us to start off with? Is it the writing bit would be the easiest thing to do
Yeah,
end
I
of the
think
day?
I found that so powerful. I literally found it 3 days ago, and it's changed my whole perspective. It really has. To I think to just to know that, yeah, we're writing our stories. Like we're all the main characters of our books, right? So we're writing our stories. I think, and we're all into that, right? Like, this is my legacy, this is my life, like, what is my purpose? You know, we're all so big on that. We want to know we're valuable, and we are. Like, God made us with a specific purpose, you know, whatever, you know. um so really, like, recognizing that we're put into this world for the becoming process. It's not to get to XYZ. It's not about that. It's about the people we become. And you'll even see, like, in between one milestone and another, it's not necessarily about that
The journey,
milestone.
isn't
It's
it? Yeah.
the person you become. I think to really recognize that, yeah, that's like, I think, yeah, that's from I think I want my life to be exciting. I want my life to be fun. I want my life to be like, oh,
So
I
obviously
live.
you still have the dreams. Obviously, it's not saying don't have the dreams. Still have the dreams.
Oh,
Still work hard for it, to achieve your goals. But don't forget the present moment. Appreciating the present moment and being present for that as well, isn't it? So I think there is a question about so does that contradict that we are praying obviously for a better future when our imam comes, isn't it? So we are still praying for that, for our imam to come, and we are obviously, we know that the times will be better when our imam comes as well, because he's going to get rid of the oppression as well. But I think what you mean is still, you know, be present at the moment, isn't it? Do what you can. I think it also comes with the intizar as well. We're muntazir and we're you know, muntazir as well. So we're doing, preparing for our imam. We're not, so that's still saying that we're kind of being present, isn't it, by preparing for our imam to come as well. So I
I
think
think
there is a question there
I
in
think
the chat as
also,
well. Yeah.
yeah, I think also, like, with the imam, obviously we all have dreams, and we, you know, we pray for, you know, the imam to come back and such. But, you know, it's like that saying, like, it's not just us waiting for the imam is waiting for
Yeah.
us. So,
Yeah.
and it's again the process of becoming. We're perfecting ourselves, and we, of course, we're waiting for the imam, but in that wait, we need to become better.
And that's
That's the
what our imam
process of
wants us to
becoming.
do.
So they actually, like, go hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. That's fine. So let me just see if there's any more question as well. And somebody's just mentioned that it's the beauty in the becoming, isn't it? And also being as well. Let's have a look if there's any. Have you got any questions on your personal one?
Mm. No, I don't think I put.
Yeah, if anybody has got any questions, please use the chat as well, to personal message any questions as well, or if you want to unmute yourself as well, if anyone's got any questions. I think it's been, you've explained it really well. You've simplified it, as I said from before, is a difficult one, but I think you've simplified it really well. So thank you so much. I think I'm not sure if there's anybody, if anyone's got any questions.
Yeah, I kept it kind of short this time,
Yeah,
so I was
no,
like, I
I
just
think
wanted
you
to
got
just
to the
be.
point. I think you got to the point as well. So summarized it really well, and I think you gave really good examples as well, and practical tips as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Let me see if there's anyone. Oh, I think Sister Yasmin's got a question. Sister Yasmin, let me see. Are you able to mute yourself? Let me just. Sister Yasmin, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I want to ask you a question actually. It's regarding, so you know, you're talking about the present and the moment. How can we teach that to our children? As much as as adults, we're on autopilot, especially when we're mothers, we've just got so much going on, and we're all trying to practice that, you know, trying to living in the present and not so much in the past or the future. What kind of tips would you give to, say, children who are, so I teach children around 6 to 8, and then I have my son who's 14, 15. So any tips how we could teach our children to be a bit more mindful, especially like you said, they've been very resilient, especially through the pandemic. They've had their own challenges going on. So, as much as we can tell them to not to think so much about the future, because like you said, the future's a little bit far. Nothing is uncertain in this time and age. Like you said, we don't know what's happening tomorrow. So any tips?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've kind of watched or learned is also the younger people are always emulating people who are older too, right? Like especially their parents. We're always watching our parents, right? So I think one is to kind of try emulate, like, okay, this is the moment, and you trying to get into the present as a parent. I think another thing is also gratitude, obviously getting into that gratitude moment. Um yeah, I think also telling stories maybe from your own life, right? Like that wisdom of stories is, I like, for me, like I'll tell my sister or myself, be like, oh, when I was here I would worry about here, and now like they're 10 years younger than me, I'm like, listen, just enjoy this right now, like you'll get your job, you'll get this, you'll get that, like everything will come. I wish people told me, like, and I'm sure a lot of people told me, like, just enjoy it. But I think telling your stories, those are always powerful. If I think of anything else, I will let you know. Yeah.
I think it is a good one. It's reminders as well, isn't it? Like, I mean, you hear sometimes the elderly as well, who are blessed, who are struggling with their health, will be telling us, right? That if anybody's younger, they'll probably be saying, you know what, make the most of your health, look after your health. Once so it's, I think it's really good that we kind of motivate each other. You probably get the older ones telling the younger ones, you know what, primary school is the best, is the best time of the years. Make the most of it before you get to exams and things like that. So I think you're right when you talk to each other as well, and the younger ones probably hear us as well, and especially in the families as well. If we're one of those who are complaining, always looking about future, they pick on that. So I think it just when you start doing it at home, I think it the whole family gets involved. And if you start taking a step back and being thankful and appreciating every moment, I think the younger ones do pick on that, don't they?
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah.
also like teaching, like I think teaching, like really, like things like just believing, like having faith that good things are coming. I think that's really important too. Like we talk about faith, but we also say, oh, after you hit 25 you won't get married, or better get a job, otherwise you won't get a job. Like, as much as we say have faith, we also have a very lack mentality, that hurry, you do this, and no, otherwise, like if they get this, you won't get this. That lack mentality is there, like that there's not enough out there. But I think changing that mentality with, you're like, whatever is written for you, like, will come. Like, obviously work hard, 100%, I believe in that. But believing that you'll get your risk, or whatever it may be. Really, I think having that faith is confidence too. Confidence that, like, I'll get what I deserve. If I work for it, I'll get it.
I think also about if you're used to complaining all the time, that energy of that negative energy is out there as well, and it can be sensed as well. So it's just obviously the way you say, taking being aware of yourself, isn't it, and looking at that as well. I think somebody might have a question. Just one second. What do you think is the biggest culprit that prevents us from living in the now? Is it just a lack of perspective, or are we comparing? Is it a comparison trap like social media that we see things on there?
I think I think for sure all three of those kind of come into it. Lack of perspective being maybe forgetting how transient everything is. When people are older, they say, oh, life just goes by like that. You know, I think we lose perspective that everything goes by so quickly. That's one. And I think social media is huge. Like, you know, everybody's just posting the best part of their life. They're not posting, oh, I'm sad and sitting at home and sick. Like, they're posting their highlight reel, and you're comparing your normal life to that highlight. So 100%, like, you're like, oh, you know, why is it like this? But I think it's really important to choose. Like, say, okay, I can either be like, oh, I wish I was there, I wish I was there, I wish I was there. Or you could be like, okay, I'm here, and this cup of tea is going to be the best cup of tea I ever had. Like, this day is going to be the best day of my life. And at the beginning, 100%, it's you might not feel it, but it's the habit, right? And then 8 months pass, a pandemic has passed, and you're like, oh, that was actually so great. And you might never get that time back again where your husband's at home all the time, or you know, you have your kids with you. Like, yeah, in the moment, 100%, it's tough. Trust, I've heard more than, you know,
Mm.
um, but I think those three are all kind of all big things, and social media is huge, and we do fall into the comparison trap. And I would highly recommend taking, you know, taking social media breaks when you find you're in that space, and being like, you know what, like, I actually have a really good. But yeah, again, it's, you know, a lot of it is coming down to habits, and our like our brains are kind of, they're wired in a certain way. So it's about creating new habits of, again, getting super grateful over a cup of tea, and choosing like, okay, like, this is going to be so good, and I'm going to go for a walk. You know, right now the weather is so good, and you're like, I'm going to go for a walk, and it's going to be the best walk of my life. Like, it seems ridiculous, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you're like, oh, actually, that was such an amazing day, you
yeah,
know. And like, and days pass, like, then, like, you make the most of what you have. But it's about choosing. I think that's so important. Choose your thought. Like, as soon as you see like, oh, I'm going somewhere, like, in my head, or I'm unhappy, like, you feel unhappy, be like, oh, what's my thought? Oh, and that's your thought, and it's not in alignment with what your soul is, because your soul is kind of, it wants to expand, it wants to be happy. So, like, be like, okay, this perspective is not serving me, I'm not feeling good, let me change my perspective. And then getting into your body again, or writing gratitude, or even if it has to, like, watch a show that's funny, just get out of that feeling, and then, like, reset. I think that's really important.
definitely. Thank you so much. Um, I think that's it. I don't think if there is any questions, so I think we'll end there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for taking that Saturday time out and joining in. So thank you so much, Sarah, and we'll see you next time. Have a lovely break in
thank,
Canada.
thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for joining in, and we'll see you inshallah next week. We've got a yoga session next week on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. On Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, we've got parenting session as well. So I think July is a very busy month for Ikra Library and for yourselves as well. So thank you everyone, and inshallah we'll see you next time. Have a lovely evening. Khuda Hafiz. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.